All right, you guys, so let's take a look at another example of solving quadratic equations. All right, so I've got 4x squared minus 12x equals negative 17. All right, and so remember, the problem needs to equal 0 before I can solve using the quadratic formula. So I am going to add 17 to both sides. So that gives me 4x squared minus 12x plus 17 equals 0. All right, so that means A is 4, B is negative 12, and C is 17. So x equals the opposite of B, which is 12, plus or minus the square root of negative 12 squared minus 4 times 4 times 17 all over 2 times 4. So x equals 12 plus or minus the square root. I'm going to use my calculator. So negative 12 squared minus 4 times 4 times 17. So I get negative 128 all over 8. Okay. All right. So immediately I know that my problem has an I in it. So x equals 12 plus or minus. I don't know what my situation is going to be with my square root, but I know that in my square root, outside my square root, I'm going to be writing an I, because when I'm taking the square root of a negative number, if you remember, the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 128, that's how you split this up in your mind. And then the square root of negative 1 is I, and then you have the square root of 128. Okay, so now I need to simplify the square root of 128. Now, you can do this the way you would like to. I introduced a video of simplifying radicals about how I simplify radicals, and if you like it, you're welcome to use it. If not, you can just ignore what I'm doing, but this is how I simplify radicals quickly without having to rely on a calculator. Okay, all right, so I have 8i and the square root of 2 divided by 8. Okay, now if you're looking at it, you're going, well, how did she really honestly do that? Okay, remember 128 is 64 times 2. Okay, and the square root of 64 is 8, so 8i root 2. This is just a technique I use to simplify radicals. All right, so now here I need to simplify if I'm able to. Well, 12, 8, and 8 are all divisible by the same number. You can't pick a number for 12 and 8 and then pick a different number for 8 and 8. You have to reduce in a consistent manner. So I can reduce all of them by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So my final answer is 3 plus or minus 2i root 2 all over 2. So that is my final answer. Now, I would recommend when you go to Delta Math that you type the division bar first, and then 3 plus or minus 2i square root 2, and then on the bottom 2. All right, submit my answer. Yes, and there we go. Okay, and you can see he used a similar approach for simplifying a perfect square and simplifying a radical. I'm sorry. Okay, all right, so let me do one more for this video, and then after that, if you've got questions, you can contact me on a one-to-one basis. Okay, so let's do a similar problem. Show question, similar problem. Okay, all right. So 4x squared plus 20x equals negative 45. All right, so I'm going to add 45 to both sides. So I get 4x squared plus 20x plus 45 equals 0. So that means A, B, and C. If you don't put your x squared first, you'll mislabel your A, B, and C if you do it off of alphabetical order. So just be really careful about that. So x equals the opposite of B, which is negative 20, plus or minus, okay, the square root of 20 squared minus 4 times 4 times 45 all over 2 times 4. So x equals negative 20 plus or minus the square root. Again, use my calculator. So 20 squared minus 4 times 4 times 45. So that gives me negative 320. So I know I have an I all over 2 times 4, which is 8. Now, if you didn't watch my video and you're watching this technique now and you're thinking, I might like this, I really recommend going back and looking at the video. What I like about this technique is that I don't have to memorize perfect squares, and I'm pretty good at dividing by 2 and accurately dividing by 2 to simplify. So x equals negative 20 plus or minus 8i square root of 5 all over 8. Okay, all right, and then I'm going to reduce by a factor of 4. So if I divide by 4, I get 5. Divide by 4, I get 2. Divide by 4, I get 2. So x equals, and notice I did not incorporate what was underneath the radical when I made that decision. So I get negative 5 plus or minus 2i root 5 all over 2. All right, so now here, I'm going to put that in my numerator. Negative 5 plus or minus 2i root 5, and then divided by 2. Submit my answer, and I got my green check, okay? And then here's the alternate approach to simplifying that radical is right here in this step of changing 320 to the square root of 64, square root of negative 1, and the square root of 5, okay? All right, so good luck. If you've got any additional questions, please let me know.